we'll see what he can do from the middle of the second row today.
Main man completes that second row. Tayo Furusato, 6 races in the Asia Talent Cup, 5 podiums, but all of them on one circuit. Qatar for 2 races last season and 4, of course, unbeaten in 2021. He leads the championship. He's also been a Rookies Cup regular this season. He won on his debut in Mugello and finished 11th overall.
Yeah, he was really impressive in Sachsenring as well in another couple of races. That's why we're going to see him in the World Championship next year.
Third row of the grid, here is Fadila Aditama, the first of the Indonesian riders on the grid. He's been a regular top 10 runner in his rookie campaign. He's also retired from 3 of the 4 races, so only 8 points on the board to date.
Yeah, it is his first season in Asia Talent Cup action, but the home crowd certainly have a leading rider to cheer on in this race.
Yes, one of the best rising talents from Indonesia at present. He's been rewarded with a place in the Rookies Cup for the 2022 season, so he's already planning his next step on the road to MotoGP. Alongside him on the third row of the grid will be Hakum Denish and also Raykat Fadila. Further back down the order, the likes of Herjan Firdaus and also Sharil Sharil and Azran Deo, who complete the 4th row. Also watch out for Ray Wakamatsu, who's starting down in P18. He's had 2 4th places in the opening 2 rounds. He's 8th in the championship and already on double the number of points he managed in his rookie 2019 season. So he's one of the few riders a little bit out of a position after qualifying, but don't be too surprised to see plenty of position changes right from the start in this class in particular. We expect to see that classic pack racing. The main question is whether Furusato can continue to show the kind of pace that he has been able to show throughout this 2021 Asia Talent Cup so far. Of course, a long time ago now.
Yeah, it is a long time since the opening rounds of the year in Qatar, but at least for Furusato, he has been busy with his Red Bull Rookies performances as well. But a big task for him from that second row of the grid to maintain that 100% record.
Steve, this is now the 8th season of the Asia Talent Cup. 7th full season, of course, because we lost most of 2020. And no less than 6 Asia Talent Cup graduates were Moto3 regulars over the course of this season. 2 of them have already moved up as far as Moto2. This is a good production line.
It is interesting with the Asia Talent Cup, a lot like the other Talent Cups as well. The first year, whenever you start these championships, there's always maybe 1 or 2 riders that look like they're going to be able to make that step. In Asia Talent Cup, was Kaido Toba was the inaugural champion back in 2014. Of course, he's a Grand Prix winner since then. Then as the years progressed, we saw more and more quality riders coming through. If you think back to right about 2017, that's when Dennis Onchu came on the scene in Asia Talent Cup, Chan Onchu as well. Of course, both of them able to have good results in the Grand Prix paddock and the Super Sport paddock in particular for Chan Onchu. We've seen Dennis Onchu on the podium in Grand Prix classes. Of course, Chan was able to win a Grand Prix as well on his debut. It does show that the Asia Talent Cup can help you find some talent and then nurture it onto the top stage.
A quick mention for anyone watching from back in Europe, a couple of riders who might be considered familiar faces. Mentioned Hakim Denish. He joined the European Talent Cup back in June. In fact, he's done most of his riding this summer over in Europe, so he will be a familiar face. And another Sharil Sharil, who managed to get in 2 European Talent Cup seasons during the curtailment, effectively, of the 2020 Asia Talent Cup. So a couple of familiar faces for those of you based back in.
Yeah, certainly it is interesting whenever we see some of the Asia Talent Cup riders move across to race in the European Talent Cup as well. It does show that for these riders, there's opportunities to be able to show their talents. Obviously, for a lot of these Asian riders, they want to get the chance to go race in Europe. The CEV paddock, obviously, a real opportunity for them to make a name for themselves. We've seen that in the last few years, even with the likes of Sho Nishimura, who won the championship back in 2019, and Billy Van Erde as well. He's been able to race in the European Championships and in the CEV Moto3 Junior World Championship, and indeed we even saw him in World Supersport this year as well.
And as far as the World Championship is concerned, it's very much Tayo Furusato who's the rider to watch for the future. He's set for his debut in the Moto3 World Championship with Honda Team Asia in 2022.
Yeah, certainly for Honda Team Asia, we've been able to see them bring through quite a few riders over the years, and there's a lot of pressure on Furusato to be able to really make that step. Obviously, we've seen Asian riders, Japanese riders over the last few years have good success. You think to even the likes of Sasaki, of course, well, a former champion in the Asian Talent Cup and a regular in the Moto3 World Championship. This is the proving ground for riders from this region. You come from the Middle East, Asia, and down in Australia. This is where you get the opportunity to race in front of big crowds and in front of big audiences as well in terms of the paddock. That's where when you're supporting the Grand Prix classes or World Superbikes, you can make a bit of a name for yourself.
Going back to Furusato, a slightly different situation for him compared to what he's been used to in the Asia Talent Cup. This is the first time he's been kept off pole position in his 4 Asia Talent Cup appearances, including the one, of course, in 2020. So he might have to get a bit used to the old elbows, particularly in the early laps.
Yeah, the one thing is this grid, of course, is set from last week's grid positions, and they've also had another couple of practice sessions today as well.
Yes, there will be another qualifying tomorrow for what is round 4, which is Saturday afternoon's race, and Sunday's race as well. We're at the halfway mark of this 2021 season, and half of the season is taking place just in 4 days over the course of this weekend in Indonesia.
Yeah, and in this morning's practice sessions, it was Furusato that led the way by a couple of tenths of a second, so keep an eye out on the number 15 from the outside of the second row.
Furusato leads the championship, 100 points out of 100. Can he maintain that unbeaten run over the course of the Indonesian round this weekend? Lights out on race 1 of 4 at the Mandalika International Circuit. And the immediate fast start is with Daniel Scheril, the pole sitter. Will watch out for Furusato, the number 15, cutting his way to try and claim the racing line in towards turn number 1, but he's going to get squeezed up there between 2 bikes. Another tries to come round him. He jostles for position in the mid-pack. And this is exactly what we've been saying. We've got our championship leader further back down the grid than he's ever been before, and getting rather bullied in the run towards the first turn.
Yeah, able to make some progress. There was Hamada that was diving down the inside with the yellow helmet on the number 8 machine, but Furusato able to dust him aside as we came through the next couple of corners. He's up there inside the top 5. Really good start there from Daniel Scheril from the pole position, able to convert that.
Yes, Furusato fighting his way back, as you say, up into 5th position. Danish is the next rider, so the next target, as it were, for him. Hakim Danish doing a great job off the line himself and moving up into P4, but it's Daniel Scheril who leads the way. Very tight, as you'd expect, among that lead group. Just a second covering the top 10 riders, and a faller towards the second half of the group as they make their way through, and that's always one of those perils of the early laps of Asia. For Kanta Hamada, who, as I said, on the grid, was one of the pre-season favourites for this championship. It's going to be a first non-scoring race of the season for him. 5th in the series standings. He was also 5th position on the grid, but that's all going to be for nothing now as he goes down on the opening lap of 16. These are effectively full-length races, the kind of race distance that those of you familiar with the World SBK paddock will used to be seeing for Supersport 300 as Hamada stalks his way away from the incident. This time we get to see it, and it's exactly as I suggested, a bit of bumping and boring there in towards turn 10. Yeah,
and it looks like he just might have gotten a bit of a punt from behind and helped into that exit, but for Hamada it's not going to make too much difference. He knows he's down and out, and he's got 3 races left for this weekend, though 3 races with the riders around him.
Yes, and of course the longest straight on the circuit, just over 500 metres in length, so it doesn't facilitate that kind of slipstream train in the same way as some of the other venues that you might be used to seeing in the Asia Talent Cup. It's Scheril who leads, but Furusato now right on his tail, so that 0.2 of a second, that 1/4 of a second advantage from the start of this lap 3 has already been eroded, and Furusato already thinking about making a move, and he's going to go all P7 throughout this race. Frankly, Deo's been on his tail for the last couple of laps around. We complete lap 6, and Furusato has recovered the lead from Mie in 2nd position. Mie, though, we saw him not shy of passing his fellow Japanese youngster last time around, and he may well get the elbows out again to challenge down the inside and try and make a pass here. Scheril is sticking with them. He's in P3.
Yeah, Scheril got a good run down that start-finish straight to try and get close in the run into turn 1, but certainly for Mie, it looks like through the next section, this is where he was really strong last time around. We'll see if he's able to do the same on this lap, try and attack down in towards turn 10. We saw he was really late in the brakes into 10, caught the race leader Furusato by surprise, was able to overtake both Scheril and Furusato that time around. We'll see if he's close enough this time to try and take the lead.
Danish a little bit wide on the curves there, and Thompson and Honga attempting to capitalise to make their way through. Less than 0.6 of a second now, covering your lead sextet as we make our way back down in towards turn 10. The action hotspot from a lap ago, still with Furusato, your lead rider. This is the fight further back down the field from 9th position down, and a couple of Indonesian riders in this group as well.
Yeah, and, certainly we've got a lot of Indonesians in the field. We've got 5 or 6 riders from the home country here in this weekend's running, and we have seen quite a few Indonesians able to have good performances in the Asia Talent Cup over the years, and in this group you have to look at the likes of Buapa as well on that number 22 machine, just lost a couple of spots there, but he's actually...
This time it's Mie, this time around, who holds 2nd position, then Danish, Thompson. Sherill's dropped all the way to 6th position. I think we're going to see what happens here.
Yeah, keep an eye on the number 21, just runs wide through those last couple of corners. You can see fairly high curves there on the entry to that corner as well, and then gets caught out just trying to get the gas a little bit too early, and that's what costs him his chance of being in that leading group. He's dropped down 2 seconds behind the race leader. You can see here with the race leader for Asado, he's also taken advantage of that to try and up his pace. He's down the low 1 minute 45s, which is pretty much about as fast as we've seen from him all the way through this race, and that's why we're seeing the leading group start to really fracture out.
And that's why we're seeing the live championship standings as well, because if Sherrill were to finish down in 6th position, Furusato could potentially extend his lead to 48 points. Might be about to gain a position here, because we've seen Thompson running wide. Hot forward situation of Taimon, who has gone down and collected Turaki Buapa, I think that is, who was alongside him, and he has now remounted to continue on in the race, but clearly out of contention when you're in a pack race like that one. And that group has now become a 6-rider group instead of the 8 or so who were all involved.
Yeah, it's starting to split up a little bit, and the reason for that is you've got to try and make those attacks, and you can see there for both of those riders on the run down into 10. For Buapa, he was at least able to get himself remounted, get back out there, but for Tumtimon, he's obviously out of this race. It looks like the stewards are going to investigate that incident as well. It did look like the number 16 of Tub Timon was at fault for that, but also a bit of a racing incident there. You're going to try and make moves into turn 10.
Yes, it does look as though that's the passing place of choice for these Asia Talent Cup riders, and Wacharan Tub Timon, the 18-year-old from Thailand, left Qatar with a couple of points to his name. Looks set for his best result here today, fighting in that 8-rider group, and unfortunately it's all come to nothing with an incident there also involving Buapa. Back to the front of the field, Furusato still leads it. It's Mie in 2nd position, Daniel Sherrill fighting his way through. I think now up into 3rd position, coming through on Danish. On the inside of him there, you can see the number 13, that's Danish on the outside. Sherrill, the number 21, making his way through, and Carter Thompson sticking with them, as is Hongo. So now this is 4 riders in contention for a podium position. We've been in this situation before, where the top 2 have been able to break away in the Asia Talent Cup. It's 0.6 of a second now, the gap to bridge for Daniel Sherrill. A new personal best for Sherrill last time around. He's just come across the line. That's Hongo who's gone down, coming off the final turn. So Hongo, who was one of the riders in the 4 riders, the quartet, chasing 3rd position, he's gone down spectacularly there, coming off the final turn.
Yeah, looks a good bit of gravel pushed onto the track as well in the exit there, the last corner, but that's a shame for Hongo. But we've seen that obviously in that second part of the group, the riders have to push on because they're seeing it start to split out, and yeah, he just runs out onto the green paint, and there is that bit of a kick off the curb there for him. You can see there the
level of the curve certainly different to the level of the track and the asphalt surface around the curve. I was saying earlier on, Steve, when we were watching free practice in Superbikes, we saw Jonathan Ray at one point come down off a curve and get all unsettled by it. These curves do seem to be particularly high here in Indonesia. This is a new venue, and we're talking about smoothing out the circuit, but it's not smooth offline, that's for sure. That'll stop them from abusing the green paint. His advantage on this latest lap around, a new personal best lap. That's why it's a 1:44.922, and he stretches 0.4 out over Mie, which means that Sherrill has got to go. He needs to leave Mie behind him, and he's got to stick with Furusato if he's to have hopes in the remainder of this race.
Yeah, nice clean move there by Sherrill to take 2nd spot in the run into turn 1, and now the key thing for him is to be able to make sure he's close enough to try and attack into turn 10. We saw that Mie was the rider that was able to attack into turn 10 earlier on. Sherrill, for all the time he spent behind Furusato, we didn't really see him try and make a move on him.
Yes, the gap from third to fourth last time around was extended by 1.5 seconds. So Carter Thompson and also Hakim Danish, there's no way that they're going to get back into actual podium contention from here. 146.5 and a 146.8 respectively, compared to that 44.9 from the race leader Furusato. Shiril and Mie have both responded on lap 13, and Furusato stands up, has a good look over his shoulder just to check how many people are in this group, and I can tell you that unless one of these three riders goes down, these are going to be your podium trio. The question is, in what order?
Yeah, for Furusato, that's another time we've seen him have that big look over his shoulder. He's not afraid of checking to see who's around him, and he's not trying to just keep his head down and focusing on his lap times. He wants to know what's happening around him. That shows he's probably got a little bit of pace in hand as well for these final 3.5 laps.
Yes, the top 5 in this race are all in the top 6 positions in the championship. Hamada, who crashed at turn 10 earlier on in this race, is the odd one out, and the top 3 in points terms, a tie at the moment between Gunmir and around that latest sector and through the twistiest stuff and in towards turn 10. They're making their way now, the leaders, through turns 11 and 12. It switches on to the final sector as we switch back to the battles further down the order. Well, they've switched at just the right time. Deo making a lunge down the inside. I think that might have been of Aditama, and both of them have gone down and into the gravel trap. And Aditama looks none too pleased with Deo there after that ambitious move down the inside. Another incident at turn 10.
Yeah, and for Aditama, that was out of 6th position. And
watching just that battle, we would have seen another 100 of those overtaking manoeuvres. We're now onto the penultimate lap of the race for the leaders. Furusato, 0.4 seconds up ahead of Shiril, who's got in front of Mie and made a 0.3 second advantage.
Yeah, and you can see there Aditama there on the number 3 going down, and again, like you said, Alex, another move into turn 10. It's easy to be a little bit ambitious on the run into there, and just to have an instant like that at the front of the field, though. Furusato's doing a good job now just to keep that lead at around about 0.3 seconds. Shiril's digging in. Last time around in the final sector, he did close back to within a couple of tenths of a second, but it's really difficult to try and close that gap down in Furusato.
Haven't we seen that already in 2021 in the Asia Talent Cup? Furusato happy to lead at the front of the field, happy to try and break his rivals for pure pace, not too worried about the slipstream advantage that's given to the riders behind him, because he knows he's got an inherent pace advantage. He wasn't able to show it in qualifying here a week ago, but thanks to the free practice sessions as well earlier on today, he's clearly got to grips with this 4.3 kilometre Mandalika International Circuit, our first ever race here around this venue, and it's in the Asia Talent Cup. But it looks like the one thing that hasn't changed is our race leader. Furusato out in front, looking set to extend his series lead.
Yeah, Shiril's doing a good job in this lap, though, holding with him, and he's a 1/10 of a second faster so far, but the clock is winding down all the way. It's really important now for Shiril to get close enough to try and attack into turn 1.
It's looking as though it's going to be the same top 2 for 3 races in a row. We had this finishing order between Furusato and Daniel Shiril in both of the races at the Doha Grand Prix. Furusato has had only 1 finishing position in 2021, and they've all been worth 25 championship points. Shiril then 2/10 further down, and we've got a fall, and is that Danish? Yes, it is. It's Danish who's gone down in his fight with Carter Thompson. Last time over the line, he was in front, I think, of Thompson in the battle for 4th place. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, keep an eye in the background, and you're going to see for Danish, he just tries to be a little bit aggressive through that last corner, trying to make sure he's able to close up on Carter Thompson to set up a move on the final lap, and just asks a bit too much of his Honda machinery.
Yes, now look at the leaders. A 1/10 of a second between them on this final lap. Shiril has managed to find something a little bit special, a little bit extra. He was stuck down in 6th position at one stage. He's fought his way through onto the tail of Furusato. Furusato still unbeaten in 2021. Daniel Shiril might be about to have a go at stopping that from being the scenario. They make their way now in towards turn 10. This has been an action hotspot all race long. It's been an incident hotspot all race long as well. Furusato there defending to the inside. It's going to be single file through here. Turns 11 and 12 in towards the final sector. Shiril chooses now down the inside into 12. Catches Furusato by surprise. Opportunity for Furusato on the number 15 here to make a recovery in similar fashion as they come off 13 and 14. What about a lunge into turn 16, the slowest corner on the circuit? Daniel Shiril looking for his first race victory.
That he's made from those injuries in Sepang a few years ago, and we saw in this race again that he's got the heart to try and keep himself in it and dig deep to try and close the gap to those race leaders. He rode a really good race, just ultimately one other rider rode a slightly better race.
Yes, his right leg completely shattered in that incident, to the extent that initially the prognosis was that it may well be an amputation. I understand stem cell surgery and so on was used to get Daniel Sharil rehabilitated. The fact that he's back on a bike at all is pretty incredible. 3 podiums in a row though, and that is his 8th podium in the Asia Talent Cup by my reckoning, and that really does take some doing. He really has done a brilliant job, and so far this weekend been among the stars of the show. The top 3 in that race are also the top 3 in your Asia Talent Cup series as a whole. As far as points are concerned, Furusato now leads it by 46 over the winner in Thailand 2018. He's fighting for the lead here against Furusato, the championship leader, who goes soaring around the outside bravely. 2 turns to go, 16 and now 17. They come through the left-hander, and it's Furusato who once again leads. It is Taiyo Furusato of Japan to make it 5 wins out of 5, and the inaugural race victory at the Mandalika International Circuit goes to Taiyo Furusato. The first time this season that he's been off pole position, the first time he's ever been off pole position in the Asia Talent Cup, but he doesn't disappoint. He comes through to the front, he leads almost throughout. Daniel Sharil was disappointed with that, shaking his head in his hands practically as he made his way back in towards turn number 1. Sharil second best, but only by 0.2 of a second. That's 3 races in a row now where he's tried to give Furusato a real run for his money. Gamie with his 3rd podium finish of this 2021 campaign, 2nd time that he's finished in P3. Their riders will come back for more here over the course of this weekend. We've still got 3 races to go in the Asia Talent Cup for 2021 and indeed for this Indonesian round. We've got effectively 2 rounds this weekend, round 3 and round 4 of the Asia Talent Cup, with 4 races, as I say, in total. Looks as though Daniel Sharil is paddling his way back towards the podium area. We will have celebrations with our top trio. But Furusato, as far as he's concerned, another race victory. It's only 5 points gained, damage limitation for Daniel Sharil. But if he is a race winner here tomorrow, that will be enough to seal the Asia Talent Cup.
Yeah, and certainly you wouldn't bet against it for Furusato with the form that he's been in, and just the manner in which he was able to take that race victory, and could well be the latest Asia Talent Cup champion as early as the opening race of tomorrow. And certainly from that point on, it's going to be a very different weekend. That really does show that he's able to keep a cool head, and that's what you want to see in the Asia Talent Cup from these riders. This is one of the big talent pools that's available to the Grand Prix paddock and to the Superbike World Championship as well, and certainly on their road to MotoGP he's been able to show